This concept of parasitic divergence has great explanatory power at this moment in history. And yes, indeed, we're living at a real crossroads. Parasitic divergence is a form of evolution, correct?
Well, parasitic divergence is indeed evolution, but it's pathological evolution that is ultimately non-adaptive and self-extinguishing. Evolution is supposed to carry us to a more robust, more adaptive, more fit state, whereas in reality, parasitic divergence carries us in the opposite direction. As far as whether it is genetic in essence, it becomes genetic. Basically, genes follow inbreeding. What happens is you get a parasitic divergence. The overclass diverges from the underclass. We'll just use those two terms to describe the two parts of the divergence, things that are diverging. The underclass is huge, so there's no problem with inbreeding, but the overclass gets smaller and smaller and smaller as resources are concentrated in its hands. So in order to take advantage of legal inheritance and other mechanisms that these people have invented to keep themselves in power, they begin inbreeding until finally they're like a bunch of Ozark hillbillies. If you take a look at the royal families in Europe, you'll see that they've really got that Ozark hillbilly thing going. If you look at ancient Egypt, for example, you'll see that King Tut, for example, was highly inbred. I mean, he had a terrible overbite. He had all kinds of bone problems. His head was shaped like a peanut. I mean, there's, bad things happen to these people genetically. So on the genetic level, it is non-adaptive. On the mental level, it is non-adaptive. And certainly on the spiritual level, it is also non-adaptive. Why is it non-adaptive? It diminishes overall utility by concentrating all utility in the parasites. Okay? Human utility becomes their utility alone. Now, what's the matter with that? Well, the problem with that is, like drug addicts, they become progressively desensitized to utility. They require more and more and more of it in order to feel any difference at all. Right? This compares to the tolerance, once again, that a drug addict feels for, develops for his or her drug of choice. Okay? They're addicts, basically. And this causes a deflationary effect in utility. Deflationary, that is, for the underclass, but inflationary for the overclass, which means that its weighting must be adjusted downward for the overclass, meaning that it takes more and more of it in order to be felt, in order to be actually sensed as utility, while it's adjusted upward for the underclass, which means that the diminishing utility of the underclass must be stretched farther and farther in order for the underclass to actually get any satisfaction, to achieve any feeling of satiety from it. Okay, so this inflation-deflation dynamic has limits. Eventually, the rich derive no additional sense of security or satisfaction from anything but a huge amount of extra wealth and power, which leaves the poor with so little that they can't derive enough satisfaction from it to offset their misery. Okay, so in other words, what it's doing is it's putting all of the utility in mankind into a place where it gets dulled because the addicts are desensitized to it.